As I'm listening again, Alav Shalom. In the Second Temple times, there were Jews who believed in the written Torah, but not in the oral Torah. They used to say, "Shtona pisana," I believe. Whatever is this rabbis, monkey business, the rabbis, they added all these laws, oral Torah, I don't want to have any of that. That's a big mistake. They are considered heretics. And they were called the Tzedukim, the Sadducees, who did not believe in Emunat Chachamim. They didn't have faith in the sages. They did not accept the sages' interpretations of the Torah. They, for example, would put the tefillin between their eyes, because the Torah says Beinei Nechem, between your eyes. So they took it literally. And they used to break Shabbat, but the only thing they wouldn't do is that they wouldn't have an open fire. Even a fire that was open before Shabbat, they would extinguish it. They said, you can't have an open fire on Shabbat. Torah says, you cannot have fires in your homes on Shabbat. They read it literally. So therefore, they came to many different interesting conclusions because they didn't have any oral Torah. They only had written Torah. But we proved many times how it's impossible to learn the Torah that way. You won't be able to understand any of the mitzvot. For example, shchita. Hashem says you have to do shchita, but all the laws are oral. You know, and many mitzvot like that. That it doesn't say explicitly in a verse how to do them. How will you know how to do them? So there was the biggest fallout between the two groups of the Orthodox and the Prushim and the Tzedukim was Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, you had to do the Ketoret in the Holy of Holies. And the sages taught that the Kohen Gadol had to put the Ketoret, the incense, on the fire pan after entering the Holy of Holies. The Tzedukim had to do it before. They said that you have to do it before. Before you come in, it already has to be in the fire pan. So the Gemara says that Kohen Gadol, who was a Tzeduki, did it their way. And when he came out, he rejoiced greatly. And his father spoke to him and he said, what did you do? He says, what do you mean? I offer the incense the way that Tzedukim said to do it. He says, although we are Tzedukim, his father said, we are afraid of the sages. You endangered your life. According to the sages, if you went into the Kodesh Kodeshim doing it the wrong way, what's going to happen to you? You're going to die. So the son says, don't worry. I'm willing to die, that we should prove that the Tzedukim are right. Hear what he says? I'm willing to run that risk of dying, so I should prove that Tzedukim are right. So not afterwards. Yeah, and you're gonna die according to them. You don't care. For example, let's say a guy says, "No, I don't believe what the rabbis say. I only says what 10 Commandments. I don't kill. I don't steal. I have a good heart, and that's it. That's all. That's my modus operandi. And that's what I go by." So what happens? But the sage, according to the sages, you're doing a lot of sins. Nah, I'm not worried about them. You know what you should ask this guy? You should ask this guy. Listen, I have a cup of water. Yeah, 10 people saw this cup of water. 9 of them said that it's clean. 1 person said there's poison inside the water. You would drink the water? So this guy probably will tell you, no, my piton, what do you mean? Of course not. Is there poison in the water? Why would I drink? Even if one opinion says it's poison in the water, why should I drink? So I tell him, according to your reasoning, so you should keep what the sages say. Even though the whole world says this is nonsense, you don't have to keep these laws. But one opinion, the sages said, if you don't keep these laws, very dangerous for your soul, like poison. So you should keep their words also, no? Even if you don't agree, because one person said it, right? So again, we see from here that a person was willing to give up his life just to prove, I don't follow you guys. I follow the Tzedukim. What happened afterwards? Not long afterwards, they found his body lifeless. That's it, he died. So this Tzeduki was sure that he was giving up his life to sanctify God's name. But his self-sacrifice was worthless because he was going against the sages. That what? He went against the Torah that Moses received at Sinai. One of the 48 ways you acquire Torah is what? One of the critical prerequisites of acquiring Torah is Emunat Chachamim, having faith in the sages. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yochanan learned from this in the Gemara, he learned from Pasuk the glory that we'll have in the future for Yerushalayim. It says, behold, I will set down gems as your flooring stones and your foundations with sapphire. I'll set your window frames with rubies and make your gates of stone. In the Pasuk in Yeshaya. So what do you see? That in the future, Hashem will bring precious stones. 30 cubits, carve them in openings 10 cubits wide by 20 cubits high and set them in the gates of Jerusalem. Can you hear this? Rabbi Yochanan says, humongous precious gems will be studded all over Jerusalem and their gates. So Rabbi Yochanan explained this in the shiur, and the student said, where are you going to find such a gems? There's no such gems, 10 cubits by 30 cubits by 30 cubits. It's massive. What are you talking about? There's no such thing. We can barely find gems the size of eggs. How can you talk about gems? So then what happened? This disciple went on a trip on a boat. And then he saw an angel carving gems. And he asked the angels, what is this for? Huge rocks. So he said, Hashem, in the future, will take these stones and put them in the gates of Jerusalem. He came back to his rabbi, Rabbi Yochanan, he said, Rabbi, I saw as you said. I scoffed in the beginning, but then I found angels carving these stones. You were right the whole time. There is such big stones. So then Rabbi Yochanan said, because then you believed. Before, when you didn't see, you didn't want to believe. Only because you saw, you believed. Like some people say, Rabbi, okay, very nice Gemara say, but when I see it, I'll believe it. Until then, no such thing. So he said to him, oh yeah? Only because you saw, you believed? Right away, Rabbi Yochanan put his eyes on him and turned him into a heap of bones. He dropped dead on the spot. He died in that moment. Why? To teach the students, to teach everybody. You cannot be a religious Jew without having faith in the sages. And if they expound from the Torah a certain drasha, a certain prophecy, a certain halacha, a certain understanding, and you think it's preposterous, that's not to blame them. You should blame yourself that you don't have enough faith in them, and you don't realize how smart they are, and they don't realize where they're getting their tradition from Moses and Sinai. So therefore, a lot of times, you go to the doctor, he tells you, listen, you gotta stop drinking Coke, you gotta change your diet, you gotta exercise, because your cholesterol, your diabetes, your sugar, your all your stuff is a mess. You gotta stop all this right now. What did the guy do? He grabs the doctor by the shirt. Slushim me, yeah. I'm not the problem. You're the problem. You're interpreting my blood work wrong. What's wrong with you? You're sick. How dare you tell me that I have to change my lifestyle? How dare you tell me I'm sick? How dare you tell me I cannot eat what I want anymore? How dare you? You're the wrong guy. You're a sicko. You go and you do, you know what happens? People do the same thing to the rabbi. They do the same thing. The rabbi doesn't listen. Your spirituality needs to be fixed. You need to change this. You need to change that. How dare you tell me what to do? What do you mean? I'm going to continue doing whatever I want. This is allowed. I don't accept your interpretation. So that means, why do we have faith in the doctors? We have faith in the pilots. We have faith in the cashiers who give us our change in the store. So why don't we have faith in the sages? So one of the ways to acquire Torah is to have faith in the sages. Baruch